everybody. Welcome to the podcast episode where I share my birth story. This is for all my friends who've reached out via text, Instagram, phone calls, and wondered about my birth story. And I'm like, I recorded a podcast about it. I'll send it to you. I feel like I recorded this already with Matt, but then I just felt so bad because Matt was kind of like a bystander. So I'm re-recording it, kind of my take. So if it ends up being about an hour, sorry, but you guys know me, long story long. Um, I want to start off with saying, if you don't have kids yet, this is a disclaimer. If you don't have kids yet and you don't want to like hear anything but a purely positive experience, this might not be for you. This ends really, really well, but the beginning part of like labor was not the best. So that's just like a forewarning for anyone. I remember when I woke up from my first nap post epidural, and I was still processing everything that had happened, I said to Matt, like, I'm so sad that I can like literally never tell this to anyone because I don't want to traumatize anyone. Like, because prior to us going in and doing our birth experience or like having our whole experience, the end of my pregnancy, I realized how much, I don't want to say nonsense, but how much negativity I had taken in from so many people sharing the horrors of their birth story. And it was never from a place like I hadn't gone through it yet. So it was never from a place of me being like, what was your birth story like? It was more people being like, just wait. And you're like, huh? And they're like, yeah, it was this bad. And then you're like, oh my God. And I feel like whenever I would listen to people's stories, I was kind of like, okay. And I always took it from the mindset of like, your story is not my story. But just getting closer to my due date, I realized the impact that it had on me just hearing that many negative stories, because whether I was internalizing them or not, they were all occupying space in my brain. And I really didn't like that. And I had to take a lot of work to just fully get it out of there and focus on mine and my husband's and my baby's experience. So I just want to say that again, it's not like, just a fair warning. It's not gory or horrible, but there is like a part that is like not the best. So I just don't want to freak people out. So I want to say like the end of my pregnancy was really good. I was very lucky my whole pregnancy. The kind of like worst thing during my pregnancy was like the lack of sleep. And that is from waking up like 5 times a night to go pee. And then third trimester, like after you reach 30 weeks, you are just so big in your belly. Sleeping is a different animal. And I had a few weeks where it was just weeks of poor sleep. And I really thought like, this is why people schedule induction dates, like, and C-sections, like this is torture and I'm only getting bigger. And then I found out how to sleep with a pregnancy pillow. My friend Dana sent me this like pillow that looks like a semicolon, and I figured out how to like put it between my thighs and have my belly rest on it. And it was an absolute game changer. And it was literally smooth sailing sleeping wise through the rest of my pregnancy. My due date was November 30th. So in October, I decided to take a social media hiatus, and I just wanted to focus on like me, the baby, Matt, and the dog, because this was going to be the last 2 months of my life as I knew it. And then our family was going to change. How much our family was going to change, I don't think I could have ever properly prepared for. And neither could Matt. And that was probably the biggest challenge for us, like from coming home, of really understanding like gravely how different our lives were. But that is also a story for another time. This is more about labor and delivery. So my due date was November 30th. Thanksgiving fell on November 28th this year, and we decided to host because it was going to be the first grandkid on both sides. And we were like, let's get your family, my family together. And it's everybody's last holiday before everybody's titles change. Like, I'm going to be a mom. You're going to be a dad. Our parents are going to be grandparents. Our siblings are going to be aunts and uncles. And the disclaimer was, if I go into labor beforehand, nobody come. Nobody come. I didn't go into labor, but I will say that last week of pregnancy was when I really got swollen. Like my face was puffy, my legs were swollen. I slept in compression every single night of my entire pregnancy, like strong compression socks. And it really helped keep my swelling at bay. Still hiked my dog every day except for the month that I was on crutches, but thankfully nothing went awry. That will be in another podcast. But then my due date came and I knew I was going to go later than my due date because one, your due date is just like, it's an arbitrary date. It's their best guess, but they always do say first time moms end up going, not always, but the statistic is they end up going 41 to 42 weeks because it's your first time that your body kind of doesn't know the drill and your body's waking up to that process. So on my due date, Matt and I got ready and we went and we did a photo shoot because he took the dog out that morning and everything had like a layer of frost on it and it was really beautiful. And I'm telling you, when you're that pregnant, the last thing you want to do is get dressed up, but I did it and we went and it was freezing. And it was really funny because where we went was a DEM dumping ground for dead animals and we didn't even know. We're like in the tall grass, taking family photos, everything set up on our tripod, and our dog is just going crazy, like in one area. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's probably like a dead animal over there. Like I was thinking like a dead deer. Matt went over there. He's like, oh my God, there were like tons of skeletons. He's like, this must be the DEM dropping ground. Hilarious. But anyways, then from there, I just knew I didn't want to drive myself crazy, like, is this the day? Is this not the day? I just got busy with projects. I kind of had family drop off, like, we'll let you know when anything happens. We didn't even let people know. We went into labor and we didn't tell anyone, but I needed that for my mental health. I didn't want to have to feel like I had to update everyone with every like new thing that was happening in the hospital. I just wanted to kind of close out that like, it's just me and Matt and this is our experience and our little bubble. And I just wanted everything to go smoothly. And then on the other side of it, be like, surprise. So at home, I got busy painting our master bathroom and redoing our master bedroom. So we just did cosmetic makeovers, but I was literally, my best friend was getting induced. She's literally in the hospital. She gave birth to her daughter 2 or 3 days before me. She's, on Pitocin, all this stuff. And I'm sending her pictures of me like rolling a ceiling, painting doors. We ended up December 4th was going to be the day before our anniversary. It was a Wednesday. Our anniversary was on Thursday, December 5th. It was our 8-year wedding anniversary. On December 3rd, we knew we were going to induce labor naturally. This is where when we recorded this podcast before, it was like so funny because Matt and I are sitting there. But honestly, the best way to induce labor is the same way you get pregnant, and it works. It works so much so that we didn't even look at each other the week before the due date because we knew we were hosting Thanksgiving and I didn't want to go into labor early. So on December 3rd, we were like, wrapping up home projects and we were kind of like, are we ready to have this kid? And we were both like, no, but we kind of felt like we were playing God by not so December 4th, I had a check-in with my midwife. And that night she was delivering babies at the hospital. So we knew December 3rd, get it going. Like the 4th, I'll have contractions and hopefully be in the hospital by the evening. And guys, it's literally exactly how it worked out. I woke up the morning of December 4th with contractions. And it's so interesting too, because contractions, like I remember asking people like, what do contractions feel like? And people are like, like they're like really strong cramps. Something happens and you can't remember. You can't remember. You know they're painful, but I can't use words in the English language to describe what those contractions felt like. But they got me. Like in the beginning, they don't. And you're kind of like, oh, is that one? So we like went and we got donuts for the doctors. I literally got blue sprinkled and pink sprinkled ones because we didn't find out the gender. So I brought them to Whitney and I was kind of like, eat whichever one you think I'm having first, and then like you can share them. And then we went and kind of just ran errands. We picked up some roasts for actually the dog and cooked them when we got home, played fetch with the dog, kind of kept working on some home projects. And then around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I was starting to feel them a lot closer and things were starting to feel really real and honestly a little scary because there was kind of no going back. And prior to that point, in movies and stuff like that, like you hear people talk about contractions lasting X amount of length, being every X amount of minutes apart. I never really understood what that meant. And honestly, like I'm thankful for Matt because at our doctor's appointment that morning, he listened better than I did. And my doctor had said, like, you really want to try to wait until your contractions are less than 5 minutes apart consistently for over 2 hours. And that's when you want to come to the hospital because we'll get you like right up the stairs to labor and delivery. And like you won't end up being in the hospital forever. I started tracking my contractions in the Notes app on my iPhone. And I would just like kind of like when I'd feel one, I would do a breathing exercise to get through it. You just kind of like try to get your mind in a different place and you're just like through it. And I'd note the time. And then when they were 10 minutes apart for about an hour, I had called my doctor and I was like, I was laying on my bed crying and I was like, I don't think I can like keep doing this at home. I'm in a lot of pain. I really want to come in. And she's like, okay, like we don't want you to suffer. So like if you think like you need to come in, you should come in. So I was like, okay. I took a birthing class by Bridget Taylor. Well, Matt and I took it together, but she offers, like, I bought her course bundle. There's 9 courses, and there's like a birth one, postpartum one, becoming a mother, breastfeeding. I've like dipped into 4 of them, but the one I fully watched, like, I think there was like 40 or 80 videos. I don't know. It was a very well made class and course, was the birth one. In this, like, I learned about like laboring at home and what you can do in your own home environment to make you the most comfortable, because they say, like, if you're having to do all of your laboring in the hospital, it's just a totally different environment. It's very sterile. There's very bright lights, like, and they say a lot of what's going on in your body, like your uterus or something, I think, or your cervix. I don't remember. Your cervix probably is like a sphincter muscle. And literally, when it's like not feeling safe, it'll like seize up and labor will pause. So I still knew like I have low pain tolerance. The birthing class I took was for doing an unmedicated birth. I loved learning about it. I know myself and I know my limits. That was not going to be my goal. I am so like wowed by women who do that, and I applaud them so much, especially for my first. I wasn't even going to try. I was not even going to try. So I decided to take a shower and kind of labor in the water a little bit. And they also say labor on a toilet. So just like sitting on a toilet is just a different position. You are like just relieving pressure and you're being held up and like things are opening. Your baby's not going to fall out or anything. So I took a shower and then washed off my makeup and redid my makeup. And this is around like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night because I knew we were probably going to be in the hospital overnight and I don't go anywhere without makeup on. So just doing my makeup, the contractions were getting out of control. Like I would have a contraction and I would grip the counter, like in the bathroom through it. And then I'd be like, okay, I have 3 minutes, because the 5 minutes in between each contraction, it's not like, oh, you have a contraction for a minute and a half and now you have 5 minutes of a break and then you have a contraction for a minute and a half. You have a contraction for 45 seconds to a minute and a half, and then whatever you have left of 5 minutes, that is your break, where actually it is so hard to do anything because you are bracing for the mental fact that you have another one coming. And contractions are like debilitating. You can't talk through them. You literally have to do like like a mind over matter type of thing and bring yourself to another place and just through it. I gripped onto Matt through all of the contractions like at the end because it was unbearable for me. So anyways, I'd have a contraction and I'd be like, okay, I have a minute to like draw an eyeliner. And then I'd have contractions and then I'd do the other eye and like finish it up. We called my husband's brother and we were going to bring, like our dog was going to be staying with them while we were in the hospital. I couldn't even make the car ride to go to their house. I was like, they have to meet us on the road because I will not make it. We met at a Stop and Shop parking lot. I'm like crying because you're so sad leaving your dog. Like this is our dog's our first baby, you know? But I'm also like, oh my gosh, how painful the contractions were. And just, you start to like just feel like it's your forever because it's taking over. I was like legitimately scared that I was going to have the baby on the side of the highway or something. Like I was like, I don't know if we're going to make it. I don't know if we're going to make it. It starts absolutely downpouring. We pulled up to the hospital at 10. When we left the Stop and Shop parking lot, Matt had plugged into the GPS how far away the hospital was. And keep in mind, we're driving from Richmond. People who are local, you'll know, from Richmond, Stop and Shop, so Southern RI, to the city, Women and Infants. It was like 20 minutes, 25 minutes. I had done the math on how many contractions I was going to have in that car ride, and I got ready. And I'm still writing them in my phone, but I am like, I was like had my feet all the way forward in like the foot part of the passenger seat, like spread out and just gripping onto Matt. We pull up to the emergency room. I just have him drop me off right up front. I like run in. I was so relieved to see the front desk. I just started hysterically crying and I couldn't stop. Matt went to go park the car. He had all my information. I didn't have my wallet. I didn't have any of that stuff. Like I was just done. They take me in. They're asking my name. I can barely say my name. They're asking for my ID. I don't have it. I'm like, my husband has it. They take me kind of like into the back, and I want to say there was like 3 other couples in the ER waiting room, and they take me in the back and they take my vitals, and the nurse is like, what is your pain level? And I'm still crying and I'm like apologizing because at this point I hadn't had to go through any contractions on my own without Matt in hours. And he was parking the car and I had no one to hold on to. So I'm like barely making it through them. And they ask what my pain level is on a scale of 1 to 10. And I said a 12. And I said, I have really low pain tolerance. I was not like freaking out. I wasn't screaming or anything, but I was really, really hurting. And, you know, like I just thought this was a procedure, like standard procedure of them being like, where are you at with this? Whatever. I tell them all that stuff. And they tell me that I have to go wait in the waiting room. And that's when I was like, wait, what? What? Like, I really thought like when we pulled up to the ER and I saw those doors, I was like, thank God. And I thought I was going to get taken right upstairs. I didn't even know what upstairs was because I'd never been to the hospital like for labor and delivery before. When Matt came in, they didn't even let him in with me. They told him to sit in the waiting room. That added another whole layer of stress because I was just enduring all those contractions on my own. I get out in the hallway with him and I wedge myself in a corner and I'm literally holding the wall and holding on to him because at this point, contractions are just getting stronger and stronger. They're intensifying and they're getting closer together. So it's to the point where I can't not make sounds through it. Like and I'm not a loud person. I'm a loud person like that, but I'm not a loud person like screaming in pain, like moaning or whatever. Like no, that's not me. So I am literally like, ooh, like the pain is so intense that sound is coming out. And it's so not like me that instead of mentally preparing for my next round of contractions, I'm apologizing to the other people in the waiting room because it's so freaking embarrassing. And like, I think 2 of the couples had kids with them and they were like, no, we get it. Like, don't even apologize. We get it. I end up going to the public bathroom in the ER because I'm like laboring on a toilet. I need to go sit down like that. I end up on my hands and knees in this bathroom and Matt was like, get off the floor. And I was like, I cannot. Like, I cannot. So I don't know. It all starts to become a huge blur. I just couldn't fathom how I wasn't being helped. And it wasn't like why is no one helping me? You're literally done. Like everybody else I had talked to, they're like, you walk into the ER and you have an epidural in your back in less than 5 minutes. You're not even tracking time. You're just like, you just don't even understand how you're not being seen. I don't know if Matt went up and was like, she really needs help, but they brought me back, not in triage yet, still in kind of like that front room of the ER. And they had a midwife or a doctor come down from labor and delivery to check me. And they're like, you're 5 centimeters dilated. And I think they said I was 100% effaced, which they were wrong because it was different when I went upstairs. But what Matt kept telling me is they kept telling me I was next. Like, there's no room for me right now, but I'm next. But they ended up taking a woman in the waiting room before me. She was 9 centimeters dilated. This lady didn't even make a peep. I don't know if it was her first kid. I think that is the woman who had her baby in the elevator that day. Like, bless her. I don't know how we end up getting a room in the ER. So I think that's called triage. But in triage, they can't do anything for pain management for you. So you're kind of like getting in, but you're not in yet. Matt had to like get me admitted, like give them all my information and stuff like that. And then I think we were just waiting for a spot upstairs in labor and delivery. We got this tiny little room. Matt turned off the lights for me so we could have like a dim environment. And there proceeded to be literally like 8 hours of hell. Like, that's where the disclaimer comes in. We walked in the room at midnight. And the only reason I know that is because, well, there was a clock on the wall, but right when we walked in, Matt was like, happy anniversary. And I was like, and I looked and I realized it was, and I hugged him and I just started crying. And then dude, the hospital bed in that room, like, they're high. So you're sitting on the side of it, right? My legs are just dangling. My legs not being on the ground, I'm already prone to swelling. By the time I got into labor and delivery, my legs were like swollen pool noodles. Like, they were so swollen. One of the girls there did get me a yoga ball, but I swear it's almost like the people in the ER are like interns or something. Like, I was like, can I just have someone who actually knows what the heck is going on? First, they gave me morphine. So there's 3 types of pain management you can do when you're in labor. And I learned this in my birthing class. You can do morphine. You can do like, it's like laughing gas. That's like the nose gas that like the dentist uses. And it doesn't, the way that works is like you inhale while you're having a contraction and it kind of like cuts, like it's supposed to cut the height of the contraction and you feel it a little bit less. And then the third one is an epidural. I wrote on my birthing plan, I knew I wanted an epidural, but I was not opposed to trying the other 2 beforehand. I also did not think I would be laboring as far along as I did without any pain intervention. So at that point, I was like, give me anything. They couldn't give me an epidural in the ER or in triage because I had to be assigned to a doctor. So first they give me the morphine, and that didn't do anything, like anything. And then when you get morphine, you're not allowed to have any other type of pain management for over 2 hours, which they didn't tell me. So they never really tell you when they're going to come in and check on you. And keep in mind, like, you are surviving on, like, at this point, like every 4 minute, like your life is operating in 4-minute chunks. I'm not even looking at the clock. I'm literally, my head is pressed into my husband. I'm gripping onto his wrists. The lights are off in our room. There's just like the glow of the machines in the room. And I am playing a meditation. It was like an 8-minute meditation that instead of finding a longer meditation, out of like psychoticness, I would just rewind it and re-listen to it for literally hours. At one point, Matt wanted to find a longer meditation. And I was like, I literally can't even have you break this routine because this is the only thing my mind is holding on to because I won't make it because I was in so much pain. 5 a.m., 5 a.m., we finally are told that they can take us upstairs. I got to the hospital at 10, so I guess that's 7 hours. If there was one word to describe how I felt from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m., that word was suffering. It's not me being over dramatic. Like I I truly felt like I was in the place of a hospital and I was being neglected and I was suffering because I couldn't comprehend how you could be experiencing that level of pain and not getting help. What I'm hearing now, even a month and a half postpartum, something is going on with the hospitals in the state. We had a traveling nurse come to our house to check in after I had the baby. And when I was telling her this story, she was like, I can't even tell you how many times I've heard this exact story from new moms that they are laboring at home, they get to the hospital, and they're just left for God knows how many hours in the ER suffering. And I'm like, okay, so it's not me being like dramatic. It's not me being over the top. It's not even me having a me complex. Like, why is no one helping me? I don't know how to describe the pain. I've never been in that situation before. And no one giving you a clear answer on any type of timeline, when help might be coming, etc. That's what made it all worse. It would have almost been better if they just let us go in the room, didn't try to give me that morphine, then nose gas. They make you sign all these crazy consent forms. They told me they ordered it and it would be down in our room in 10 minutes. Without me knowing that they actually couldn't give it to me for 2 hours. They came back 2 hours later and were like, "So we had to wait because you couldn't have it for 2 hours." Don't tell me it's coming in 10 minutes and then you come in 2 hours. The first time I took it, I realized it didn't work. I was done. Everyone upstairs in labor and delivery was like, "Yeah, both of those don't do anything." Like, they don't do anything, they don't do anything. You need to get the epidural. So I don't even wanna, like, put blame on the people working in the ER because I don't think, there was secretly a room and they weren't giving it to me. I think it's, like, gross mismanagement of, um, the ER and just, like, the public. And that's what I have to say about that. I was extremely grateful, extremely grateful to get wheeled upstairs. And when we were getting wheeled upstairs, we walked down this super long hallway where one whole side of it was just massive glass windows and there was a beautiful snowstorm happening. And that was like such a beautiful gift that our daughter was gonna, well, we didn't know we were having a daughter, but that our baby was gonna be born like during such beautiful weather. Um, I'm I'm trying to see if I missed anything. I don't think I did. Just between 12 and 5. Yeah. So anyways, we get in there. My legs are super duper swollen. You're like sitting up, like pretend my arms are my legs. That's how my legs are. And they just like wheel me up to a nurse. She's standing between my legs, like holding them. And I'm like, oh my God, my legs are so swollen. Your breath feels horrible because you just like didn't have gum or anything for so many hours. You're like, everybody stay away from me. I have bad breath. They do the epidural. The anesthesiologist who did my epidural looked like my 16-year-old brother, like a gamer. Like, it's like I wanted to like do a double triple take of like, dude, are you even old enough to do this? But also you're in such a place of pain. You're like, hit me. Like literally just do it. And then the epidural happens. And I want to say like, bless modern science and all that stuff because that like saved my life in that moment, literally. So I get the epidural and there kind of just starts our day. That was at 5, around 5 a.m. So we had 2 hours with the overnight crew. And I will say everyone stayed in our room and chatted with us. And the girl who was kind of the nurse taking care of us, her and her husband had just bought a house. They have 2 kids and they had just hired someone. Their painter was coming that week. So because we had just done a ton of home renovations, I spent a month deciding paint colors because I went to Sherwin-Williams and I bought 13 gallons of paint. 13 gallons of paint at literally like 35 or 36 weeks pregnant, and I knew I was going to put in work. So I had done so much research on like paints that were just going to like, I wasn't going to want to change in a few years. So I was so happy to like share that all with her. And this girl was so funny. She's like, after you have your baby, I'll just watch it and you can come paint my house. And I was like, yeah, I wish. So chatted with them. The woman who like fills in all the information for the anesthesiologist was like, she at one point literally was like holding her cart. And she's like, I have to leave, but I really want to stay. Like she was just staying there to hang out. And then the second like round of nurses started, like the day shift people. And my nurse was this girl, Jenny, and I love her so much. I still want to drop something off at the hospital for all the nurses who cared for us because they literally made such an impact. So while this is going on, like, okay, we basically had an entire night of no sleep. So the whole day that we labored, one second, mother-in-law calling. Anyways, sorry. So since we didn't really sleep the night before, we were kind of in and out of napping throughout that whole day as we were waiting for things to keep moving along. When you get an epidural, I didn't know this, but like labor kind of slows down because it's like your body's just not operating on its own speed anymore. You kind of had an intervention. So Matt had brought my birth plan. And I just want to literally give kudos to all the nurses. They were so respectful. I didn't even really know this. It was more things I thought of later and remembered about and was like, oh my gosh, they really did. Like everybody read that sheet and everybody was so respectful and like was really adamant about helping me have the experience that I wanted. Because for me, when I looked back, it was like weirdly kind of a dreamy environment. Like the lights were really dim and like you're like napping and kind of in and out of consciousness of like hearing the hums of the machines, all the different like sounds in the room, but it was like very peaceful and very enjoyable. And like I asked to be rotated every 30 minutes. So I just wasn't like laying in one position for the course of however long it would take my body to get to where it needs to be to have the baby. And Jenny literally came in every 30 minutes to an hour. And she like had some go-to positions that she loved putting ladies in where like you have like a peanut yoga ball between your legs and that really helps like open up your pelvis and all this stuff I had learned about in my birthing class too. And in my birthing class, there were so many exercises that you could do to just kind of like really like rock and move your body and start like helping your pelvis get ready because like your pelvis spreads apart and I think there's like 6 chambers. It starts at 3, 2, 1, 0, -1, -2, -3. And the optimal goal is for baby to drop into the -3 spot, which my baby did, which is why I think I had such an easy and like beautiful delivery. But I remember while I was doing my birthing class being like, dude, I'm not like at some points you had to like put your legs up on a chair and be down on like your arms on the floor. And I'm like, you're so pregnant that I'm like, dude, I'm not doing that. When we were painting our bedroom, I was down on all fours, laying basically on the floor with my front part of my body painting trim. And I'd like call up to Matt. I'd be like, Matt, look, it's like all the positions in my birthing class. I'm doing them right now, painting trim. So I think that really helped too. And being active with my dog my entire pregnancy, hiking him literally up until like I think 2 days before my due date was my last hike. And granted, my hike started to look different. It had to be modified, but still being active, like that was, I think, a huge game changer for my body. Um, so yeah, we kind of like, I think by the afternoon, my laboring hadn't progressed at all since when I had come in. So they started me on some Pitocin. And with an epidural, I didn't know this either. Like you have a controller like very, very close to your, like right here on your hospital bed. And if you ever like start to feel like as your contractions start getting stronger and stronger towards the end when you're ready to push, um, you can like press a button there and it'll administer a little bit more medicine. When I was getting ready to give birth, I could feel like the spot that I was in and I actually opted not to press it. I felt no pain at all, but I opted not to press it because I wanted to have the feeling that I did of the lower part of my body so I could push from here. Because in my birthing class, there was a huge part on like the breathing that you do to push to work with your body, because the whole point of this birthing class is having a baby is such a natural process that your body already intrinsically does know what to do. So, like you see so much stupid stuff. Like literally before we had the baby, I got so freaking sick of TV shows and movies that painted birth in this like horrendous way. The women were always screaming their faces off. Their hair was soaking wet. Like they were literally like someone opened a freaking fire hydrant on them and it was just like, and they're like sweating, like profusely sweating. They look like they had near-death experiences. And I'm like, dude, if that's the case, like, why would people have kids? Granted, that might very well be what it feels like when if you do all natural or if you go into like a fearful place being all natural, like doing all, because so much of it is mental. Like you have to like remind yourself how much of a natural thing this is. And a mantra that I kept saying is like, my contractions are not stronger than me because they're of me. Because you do that to almost trick your mind, because when you start to get overwhelmed by the pain, you start to get in a fear loop. And then you're like fearful of the next set of contractions. And that loop happened to me so many times because I don't handle pain well. And I felt like I was in labor forever, which I basically was. So again, thank God for Matt. Um, my last nap, like Pitocin worked at 4:30. They're like, okay, you're like, we're basically going to be ready to push. They like started kind of getting everything ready, or maybe it was like 4:45, because I remember my last nap before I knew I was going to wake up and like have to have the baby. All of a sudden I got hit with this wave of like fear because I hadn't thought about what pushing would be like, because I was just like in this sleepy state all day. And I was also trying to put the horrible experience of the ER behind me, that all of a sudden I had this sobering moment of like, I didn't even think about what it's going to be like pushing. Like what if that's just as bad as it was in the ER? And my best friend had just had her daughter a few days before me, and she had pushed Nina out her daughter, in less than 30 minutes. And she said birth was beautiful. And I was like painting something in our room. And I remember turning to Matt and I was like, I'd never heard anyone talk about like birth as a beautiful experience before. And I think it sat much better with me because it was someone who I knew too, like someone who's so close to me. So I had told the nurse that Jen had had her baby in like half an hour, and she, in like the sweetest way, was like, I just don't want you to get your hopes up, because oftentimes for first time moms, they can push for up to 4 hours. And I was like, that's what made me be like, God, I don't have it in me to do it for 4 hours. Like, I don't. Like, I am so tired. I don't like, yeah. So we said a prayer, and like at this point still kind of no one's in our room, and I had woken up from a nap, and my last nap was kind of a prayer. Like we said a prayer together, but my last nap was kind of just a prayer between me and God. And I had woken up and I had told Matt, we had one girl name and three boy names. And I was like, because we didn't know what we were having. And I was like, Matt, if we have a girl, we have to name her Magnolia. No, we had two girl names, sorry. Um, and he's like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, because when we got pregnant, we were like so fearful that having a kid was kind of going to end our life as we knew it. And it was kind of like, time's up. Anything we didn't complete, like it's too late now and everything's going to change forever. And one of my favorite like stories is the Magnolia story by Chip and Joanna Gaines. And Chip and Joanna Gaines were so inspiring to Matt and I like a decade ago when their show Fixer Upper came out, because Matt and I love working on home renovations and projects together as husband and wife. And that was like, we got to see an example of a husband and wife getting to do that together. And it's just kind of like a dream. And then like Costa Cabin was born, our business and things like that. So there was just such a like deep rooted meaning behind Magnolia for me that I was like, that's the one I want. I don't want the other girl name. Like I want Magnolia. But keep in mind, I was still pretty dead set that we were having a boy. And Matt was like, okay. And then the delivery, like, bless. The Lord was so good to me. I start pushing and the baby's head was right there. And they were like, "Oh my gosh, your baby's head is right there, like right there, right there." And pushing, again, I guess I'll just say this for sake of the podcast. In my class, I learned, like, if you're blowing out candles, you're like, and it's so much force coming out of your mouth. And she had said, when you say moo, the difference of how the air is leaving your mouth and you feel your muscles here, like, she's like, go from that type of pushing. The nurses do instruct you how to push as well, but they said something like, if you don't poop, you're not pushing right. Like, that's where I'm like 50-50, because I don't totally agree with that, because I think you can work with your uterus, because again, it's your body, when it's time to push, your body's already done the work to get to that point, and there's something called the fetal ejection mode or something like that, and it's the part of labor where your body naturally is ready to like eject that baby, because you've done all the hard work of labor, and now it's like this is how the baby came out way before there was all this modern medicine and the fetal ejection. I'm gonna have to look it up, but um they're watching your contractions on the monitor and you don't feel it at all, but how strong they are and intense, your body is really working to help get that baby out. So the first ones, like Matt's holding one leg, a nurse is holding the other leg, and you're like, and again, like, I don't feel like, I mean, someone could have taken pictures and my face could look totally normal, but I didn't feel like I was straining like crazy. They said the head was there. I pushed like 3 times. They're like, we got to get a mirror. We got to show you. I'm kind of like, okay. They go get a mirror. And I'm thinking they're going to bring like a handheld mirror. They wheel in this mirror that's like the size of a dressing room mirror on wheels. And they wheel it in position. They're like, you see that? That's her head. And then they're like, all right, like next round of pushing. And I'm kind of like, okay, the mirror is still there. And they're like, do you want to watch her be born? And I'm like, no, I don't need to watch her be born. So then they wheel the mirror out. Then I do my second set of pushes, and her head was like super coming, and they were like, okay, you have to stop because the doctor's not here yet. They rush and they go get the doctor. Then they come in, and I think I had 1 or 2 more rounds of pushing, and then Magnolia was born. And so it took less than 30 minutes, or about 30 minutes, but I think I would have had her faster if I didn't have to wait for the doctor. But again, you're not pushing for that full 30 minutes. You're only pushing during your contractions that they read to you off the computer. So to piggyback off my best friend, like, bringing my daughter into this world was literally one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. And the first thing I said when they put her on me and I held her was, I looked at Matt and I said, I could do this again. Because it was just like, in that moment, everything becomes an absolute dream. And it's just this thing that was so uncertain and so unexpected, and it's done. And this baby that you had, like first time pregnancy, this baby that you didn't know and you would just feel like it is here in your arms, in the flesh, and you're like, you witness the miracle of life. That's all I can say. You witness the miracle of life. Then Matt and I had to like take like some time to process that we had a daughter, that she was a girl, because I had spent 9 months calling Magnolia Buddy in my belly. Poor thing. Because I really thought I was having a boy. My mother-in-law thought we were having a boy. She bought a lawn sign for her yard that said, it's a boy. Like, how much, like, I know Miss Sue had boy clothes and stuff. We got a wedding invite for Matt's brother's wedding, and it said Matt, Anastasia, and son, and, now a month and a half out, I couldn't imagine life, just like everyone would say, you can't imagine life without the kid that you have. And she is so sweet and so cute. And she's with my mother-in-law right now, and they're bringing her here. And it's just like, it's been a journey, but that was my birth story. Like, the beginning was absolutely wild, and the end was absolutely beautiful. And like, we loved all of our nurses in labor and delivery, like absolutely loved all of them. And then when we got brought down to the postpartum ward. So I think labor and delivery is on the 6th floor, and I think the postpartum like recovery is on the 4th floor. I could be wrong. I could be right. I really don't remember. Well, because you're like in such a daze. I loved our like main nurse that we had like 2 or 3 times. Her name was Eurissa. Love her. Like you just feel so taken care of and so actually there were a few nurses at shift change. Nurses would stay in our room and overlap by like an hour. Like nurses could have gone home an hour ago and they were still staying in our room to hang out. It was just such a dreamy experience. We absolutely loved it. Coming home and realizing that we had a kid is a story for another time because that was like scary and a huge adjustment. But no rush at all. I know I'm going to love the heck out of my next birth too. So I'm grateful for that experience. I feel really, really blessed that it went as smoothly as it did. Even the way that labor went in the ER, I'm grateful for Matt. The day that we were leaving the hospital, on Matt's wrists, because I was holding his wrists, all of a sudden, all of the bruises popped through from where I was gripping him. And oh my gosh, did I cry? Because it like reminded me of like that experience that we went through together. And we were already on the other side of it. And there was so much beauty in it. So yeah. Yeah. So that was my birth story. And I know everyone's are like so different. I hope it was like encouraging to some people. But all my friends, you know, if anybody wants to share theirs with me, I'd love to hear it and know that I'm on the other side of this too. And again, like all my friends who have kids who I've never asked you, I just am like grateful that I feel like our friends have given us a lot of grace. Matt and I never having been through this, like it's kind of, my mother-in-law had said this, like you have no point of reference. And by not having that, like you just don't know how to be there in a supportive way for your friends going through these transitions. And now I feel such a calling to be there for my friends who are navigating first-time parenthood. So even down to like before I had Magnolia and I was working on her nursery, I was so like, okay, like you have all these gifts from the baby shower. You don't even really know where to put things and how to make sense of things because you don't know what you're going to need, like in what order you're going to have to reach for things. Yes, clothing is obviously easy because it's newborn, then 0 to 3 months, 3 months, etc. But even down to like products. So I don't know, Matt and I going through this experience, we're like, dude, we are going to so be there for all of our friends who have first time kids, down to like getting gifts that are actually like so useful and can really help someone out. And from that down to like, do you need me to be at your house for a few nights? Because the difference between totally getting sent off a cliff and like staying above water is sleep. And just, oh my gosh, there's just so much. So anyways, it was very long-winded. I thirst now. I thirst for some water. 10 out of 10 would do it again. That was actually just fun to go down memory lane like that for myself. So thank you guys for listening. If anybody has any questions or any suggestions that they want to add to this episode, please feel free to email me or DM me on my the Anastasiya Podcast Instagram, or to send in an email to the anastasiapodcast@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much for listening. And I'm just like loving this. Okay. Love you guys. Bye.